I don't see how anyone could look at my life before my wife and say that now I'm missing.
One of the primary Alaskan bush people stars have had to deal with a sequence of agonizing catastrophes that profoundly impacted him, who was known for being hands-on abilities and affection for his tight-knit. Noah's life was transformed by his family when his Billy Brown's father died. Surprisingly, the loss occurred in 2021 while Noah was attempting to establish a secure and dependable home for the loss of the wife and child left enduring effects that make it challenging for Noah will proceed, yet even despite obstacles, Noah keeps pushing come on ahead for his family's sake. As we explore the tragedy of the Noah Brown family, one of the numerous challenges for an orientated individual with his family, Noah had to deal with some years ago, the bright young man who was well known for rescuing the Alaskan bush members. People in every circumstance make a severe criticism from his relatives regarding Rain and Noah Brown. His spouse met in Hoona, Alaska, in 2016. When she was traveling and, like many people, falling in love, there were none of the original sighting stories. Distinct, they clicked right away, and their connection developed into a year after they first met. Noah, a serious one, believed it was time to go on to the following stage with Rand, so during a passionate performance, he went on a sunset trek in Juneau. Need to ask her to marry him, and a year later the pair then strolled along the Idaho Isle in a private ceremony in the company of close relatives and friends. The lovers have subsequently endeavored to construct their small family together while overcoming the difficulties posed by the unfavorable circumstances among the woods. But the hard circumstances were the least of their issues that the couple quickly became aware of, that certain bush people, in particular Bird Brown, wasn't totally happy. To undoubtedly have Rain in the pack, Noah and Bird and his sibling had a tight bond. Sister, although this was quickly altered when Rain came into play, and the two women had trouble connecting, creating Rain's after marriage. Life can be difficult. You ask? What could have caused this? According to reports, trouble began after the downpour. Changed Ruth to Rain as her name. Several credible sources state that some people didn't like the name change. Of the siblings of Noah, especially Rain Brown, who thought she was stolen by Noah's wife's name in her description of a single white woman's move, but its reigning mother provided an alternative viewpoint. She clarified the problem by saying that her Rain was the name that the daughter had taken since she was enrolled in junior high due if she refused to be referred to as Ruth. Additionally, there were allegations that it was said that Browns disliked Rain adopting their surname, but Noah was hastily rejecting the rumors that outlets of media that Rain will undoubtedly be adopting his last name in the middle of disputes. Noah supported his wife, and similar to what any devoted father would, demonstrating his dedication to her and their future together. The name given may have presented an inaccurate image of it's going to rain. But Noah said clearly, stating that his wife is completely accepted into his family and into life. Moreover, but Noah's difficulties weren't only conclude with the name controversy, which he actually was taken to court alongside a few of his relatives in a previous fraud case. Noah and 5 members of his wedding party in court. The Brown family was arraigned, facing a significant fraud case in court. Claims that the Browns were charged with 60 counts in all, ranging from starting with the first degree of unsworn falsification theft in the first and second degrees. The fraud case started in Alaska's dividend from the permanent fund that provides money to community members who have resided in the state for a minimum of 12 months, observing an ideal chance to enhance their revenues from the application that the Browns made for the program of basic income. But the Department of Revenue in Alaska, following getting a tip about fraud, began an examination of the family, finally demonstrating that the Browns' their PFD petition's allegations were false. The investigation found manager overseeing the Brown case family failed to meet the physical presence conditions in order to obtain the funds, as the regulations stipulated that candidates were unable to spend more than 180 days out of the state annually, and proof indicated that the Browns spent more time outside of Alaska than that filming the family's show. Billy Brown, the patriarch, took the brunt of the accusations against him, with no less more than 24 fees associated with getting $113,000 or so under false pretenses. In the end, Billy entered a guilty plea in court and received a sentence of only 30 days in prison. Bars are required to participate in a community service and was told to pay a penalty. Furthermore, the complete Brown Noah's family was prohibited from submitting a future application for PFD funding. In the meantime, the other relatives guilty of the accusations had to pay back the money they obtained through fraud. Obtained to prevent incarceration. While doing so, the Browns experienced a medical emergency that nearly took the family's matriarch. In 2017, Alaskan matriarch Amy Brown Bush people received a diagnosis of advanced lung cancer that compelled the Brown family to abandon their isolated existence in Alaska to seek medical attention for their mother. In Southern California, during her medical, the diagnosis was that the condition was bad. Amy was given something that seemed scarier. Only 3% of cancer patients will survive. Fright, but she refused to give up. Without a struggle, she began receiving vigorous therapy, combining chemotherapy and radiation in an attempt to defeat the lethal illness that her husband Billy and the children also provided assistance during this. The stage is crucial in providing comfort. Amy of a favorable result from the procedure was demanding as she fell to roughly 77. However, it all paid off in the end. After several months, Amy got a positive news that her cancer has inexplicably vanished with that, and she didn't spend any time in beginning the process of her recuperation, which permitted her relatives to go back to the wilderness. And right before Amy had begun to heal, she was taken back quickly to the hospital after a few years, but this time, she wasn't talking about cancer. Identified as having a severe case of pneumonia given her past health issues with the Browns, their fans were also concerned about Snowbird, however, quickly relaxed the crisis by keeping the public informed through her on the Instagram page. People are always inquiring how her mother is doing, so I wanted to let you all know that Mom was admitted to the hospital, but she is doing well. She's currently taking antibiotics, and yes, they are looking after her. Serious case of pneumonia, yet she spent a very late night with her last night. Immune system is still recuperating from pneumonia from earlier cancer treatments severely injured her, leaving Amy bedridden and under close medical observation. As usual, the Browns came together to back when their grandmother struggled to reclaim, despite the fact that her recuperation was delayed because the physicians advised a lot of rest and routine examinations. She ultimately got better and moved in with a peer on the show with her family just when the Browns believed they had scaled. After yet another tragedy occurred, departing in February, the wolf pack was in ruins. The Brown family endured severe hardship in 2021. Loss that occurred when Billy Brown's family patriarch and the show's primary star died at the age of 68, which signified a watershed moment for the family and the actual episode. Billy's passing occurred after experiencing a deadly seizure at the residence of a family in Washington state after years of health issues, including the patriarch's cardiac issues. Death surely created a gap in this, since he wasn't only the leader of the in addition, he served as the head of the wolf pack, who helped his family navigate the difficulties they encounter on the show. Death surprised a lot of people, not just since he was the impetus behind the success of the play, but instead because he represented the essence of the wilderness more than everyone else, and he's now the trademark of the show. The response from the Brown family experienced a great deal of sorrow. It was Noah who broke the heartbreaking news first to the public via his official and his sincere statement on his Instagram page. He referred to his father as his closest companion. It conveyed the intense anguish of losing. He informed him that Billy had died quietly, surrounded by his affectionate relatives of other Brown family members shared their sorrows and memories as well. Billy's loyal wife, Amy Brown, who has been with him from the beginning, was heartbroken by his passing. To make their last but not least, Billy the Browns and the creators of the show devoted an episode to the episode was named, Back to the Patriarch. There were poignant moments into the bush. As the family gathered to pay tribute to each member's patriarch's legacy, considered his impact, and the lessons that he had taught them, there were images of the relatives talking about how they'll find their way without their guardian in the world. The theme of the episode, the show veered off course from its typical scenes of adventure to one of the morning while the Browns discussed ways to sustain Billy's dream. Billy's the Browns' aim is to continue living in the wild, and the admirers after his passing raised concerns regarding the future of the show. Many people questioned whether the family could maintain the way of life that what the patriarch had planned for them. Despite these, without him in the picture, the family's worries made it apparent that they'll continue Billy's dream. They promised to honor his request and maintain the camera rolling in an effort to demonstrate that the legacy of Billy would endure by their endeavors, contributing to the terrible wildfire claims a family's life destroyed the new ranch and the families. In 2020, the Brown family traveled to Washington on Instagram to provide information about the Palmer Fire's effects on the family residence in Washington's Okanogan County. The fire that began inexplicably burned through the just purchased 6,000. The property was eventually destroyed by acres, which additionally functioned as the filming venue for the performance in the video. Noah, as well as his siblings, revealed that although the family had a significant loss, they were blessed to have been saved in time. Additionally, he reassured the supporters that the family does not require financial support from the general populace, instead of their prayers and emotional assistance, because the entire pack was the Browns have a safe and secure. Certainly endured a great deal. But the fire incidents appeared to be the most common type of their misfortunes because it arrived at a time they had just decided to begin a fresh start after their matriarch's health fright and abrupt patriarchal death as well, which was a significant loss to the family's financial situation, as the ranch was approximately $1.6 million. But the fire didn't only ruin their pricey ranch, but also disturbed the Browns' way of life. Were compelled to stay in motels in the metropolis is distant from the way of living they are accustomed to. The ranch's disappearance was a significant blow to the family, made worse by the idea of losing a spot that their father had assisted create the fire for the Brown household. Caused them to stray from Billy's course shown to them, but they were resolved to reconstruct and carry on with his legacy regardless of the difficulty they encountered. And as the family maintained, Noah had to rebuild, however, and confronted after the fire, yet another catastrophe event. Rain and Noah, his spouse, made the difficult choice to go from the wild and relocate to the city following a severe damage to their property caused by the fire. Noah and every other member of the Brown family got struck the hardest. He responded right away. His admirers, once rumors started to circulate concerning his departure from the ranch because to a family issue, while some conjectured that he relocated due of his wife's anticipating their second kid. Taking care of the matter on his Noah's Instagram page clarified that the only explanation for his family's departure from the fire was the reason for Northstar Ranch consumed all of his possessions. Thus he had to take up residence in a rental home till he could restore everything he had lost. Said in closing that he doesn't want contributions or gifts from his supporters, but their steadfast assistance in the upcoming season of the Bush people of Alaska trailed Noah as he started looking for a home with a lot of properties that don't live up to his expectations. Noah needed some time to locate a new put in his favorite spot, but he ultimately discovered what he called the ideal house for his young family. A brand new house on an island was provided, giving the family a new beginning in their new life. The remote region portrays that he grew up in a wilderness environment that allowed for him to raise his kids in a comparable setting. Although ranching wasn't simple, it was calming to observe Noah at last settling in a location that feels good about his family. but his fans of Move Left are curious about his long-term goals for each member of the show. Of Brown pledged to stay in the outdoors in order to preserve their father's heritage alive. But look out here, Noah the Wilderness. Well, Noah appears to be remaining in agreement with the wolf pack. However, he will probably be juggling between the wilderness and his new residence while relocating to Alaska from the ranch. Noah disclosed that his search for a new house was nearly over before it even began. Presumably, during one of his he went on a few house hunting excursions. Incident in which he struck his head into a metal post, causing a dent on his head. But there were additional. Noah disclosed in the report that in addition to the accident in which he had sustained more concussions than most people throughout the years for professional boxers. This might be a surprise to Noah's followers, who know that he'd be intelligent for someone who is regarded as Noah was the most intelligent member of the wolf pack. Now experienced memory loss, and he ascribed his forgetting to chronic post-concussive disorder health issue that could impact him indefinitely. In spite of how serious his Noah attempted to include a small amount of levity to the discussion with his spouse. He made a joke about how his palate has altered since the mishap, and pleaded his spouse to assess his palate by allowing him to sample various foods unexpectedly. Noah, who once detested spicy food, could be consumed without any problem. But his memory problems are concerned. Noah is adamant about moving forward in an attempt to locate his foot, but unfortunately, his sister has plans for him in life. Bird Brown had a medical scare at her first diagnosis was unclear. However, with more testing, the physicians found 2 big tumors that weighed 4 pounds and 1 pound, respectively. Following the tumors were removed with surgery. A biopsy was performed on the tissue to ascertain if they were benign or malignant cells. In an earlier Alaskan episode, Bird of the Bush People briefly discussed you are aware of her medical condition, but I didn't wish to see a physician since I didn't want a major situation to arise. I always put it off because of this. Much more serious than I initially believed going to be, that is, I might have cancer. I should resemble the strong one. You're aware that nothing should to occur to me. But she entered complete information in a subsequent episode where she disclosed that the physicians had cautioned her. Indicated her chances of survival were 80% with a 50% likelihood that the cancers will recur, despite the fact that the particular kind of cancer was not shared with the general public. Bird and the creators of the show didn't disclose the information as well. However, it was stated that the bird may have experienced ovarian cancer. And the reason for this is that the bird underwent more operations throughout surgery, including the extraction of a portion of her abdomen, and her appendix were connected to ovarian cancer. Bird, who was only 27 years old, faced a significant medical ailment that can change one's life. As additionally, physicians suggested a total surgery to lower the chance of the tumor returning, and as a result prevent cancer. Thus, if a bird wanted to maintain her chances of becoming pregnant eventually, she would have to gather and preserve her eggs prior to the operation that will keep her from having children organically. While the rumors circulating indicated that the cancers discovered in the bird weren't the ultimate diagnosis, revealed that it was malignant. It may be anything from borderline tumors to advanced cancer. During the difficulties, the Browns appeared to be catching up in their own ways with life. However, there is a cast before all of these. Matt appears to have been forgotten by many members. Al Brown, the oldest son, despite the fact that he no longer appears on the show, as it was disclosed that he relocated to California. Although there are additional, the backstory is that at the time when the Alaskan Bush People initially introduced the family seemed so cohesive that they even possess a distinct dialect a few years later. The sinister secret of the family started to surface. And the reason Matt actually left was one of them. One thing viewers would observe about the show demonstrates that even if the family's intimacy, Matt never bothered to appear despite their relocation from California to following Amy's cancer treatment. Alaska. The show's producers claimed that the Matt's motive for leaving was that he was having trouble abusing drugs and that caused problems in the family, resulting in his eventual separation from the program.